If we were to start off from completely scratch and I had to make my first 5 to 10K a month with an online agency, an online business, specifically the service-based industry, this is pretty much how I would do it. Realistically, this is exactly what I would do step by step to be able to achieve that 5 to 10K per month mark. Now, the reason I say 5 to 10K per month, depending on where you live, on average, usually 4 to 3 to 5K is like the average salary that you get after you're spending 4 or 5 years in university, college, you get a job, you're in the job market, and you have finally landed your first corporate job. That is usually how much you start to make on average as a person, as a human around the 24, 25 age, anything like that bracket. On average, right? We're basing it off of average. Now, 10K per month is how much you start making if you're a doctor, lawyer, you've studied and went to school for like 7, 8, 9, 10 years or something. You got a PhD or something like that. And the reason I base it off of 5K is because that is like the minimum that I want anybody to make before they start either dropping out or they start um, going into something else, because that is kind of the stage you're at when you want to prove your parents and tell them, you know what, listen, this is possible. I'm able to make money online. This is how much I've made. Let me lock in on this. Let me go all in, right? So what I'll do with you guys, I won't do it on Miro here because I've had some issues with it. I'll go ahead and transfer this whole video to a different screen where I'm using my initial whiteboard here. I'm going through everything with you guys, a step-by-step framework to exactly get to that 5 to 10K per month mark with your initial agency and your service-based business. I'll go ahead and dive into that one with you guys just now so that you guys can watch it over. And yeah, going through everything there, it's going to be a little bit of a long video. If you don't have the attention span, well, you're not going to be able to even make 5K ever, right? Online. You're not going to be able to do it if you don't have the attention span of watching a 34, 35-minute video at all, right? So I'm going to go ahead and dive into that one right now. See you guys on the other side. And yeah, looking forward to it. Now, the very first thing that you want to do and you want to have in place when building and starting your first agency and getting to that 5 to 10K per month mark consistently is finding a niche, right? That is step number one. It is finding a niche. Now, what is a niche? Now, a niche is a specific market, a specific industry, a group of people that you can initially help, right? So you see this group of people. Now, this could be anyone. This could be a group of dentists. This could be a group of roofers. This could be a group of agents, you name it, whatever it is, right? Now, before you go ahead and start out and choose your specific niche, there's three individual things that I want you to take care of and that I want you to remember before even choosing one, right? Now, the first thing is it a growing market, right? That's the first thing. Is it growing, right? Whatever industry you choose, you want to make sure that that is in an industry that is growing. They're actively getting more people in. If it's a dentistry industry, make sure that you know that there are coming more dentists into the market. If it's a market of agents, make sure that agents are growing and make sure that there are more people becoming real estate agents, whatever it may be. That is the first thing. The second thing is, do they actually need whatever you are offering, right? Do they need it, right? Is there a need there? Is there a specific want there, right? There's a lot of people that want things, but there's a difference between wanting something and needing something, right? You can consider, for example, let's say you're working with Muay Thai classes, Jiu-Jitsu classes. Well, these people, they need more people in. They need it because why? Because if they get more people in, the more money they're going to make, right? The more money they're going to make, the happier they're going to be, the more they're going to pay you, essentially, right? So you need to make sure that these people need whatever it is that you're offering. And when you're doing a service-based industry, a business, there's a lot of things that people need, right? So this one, usually 80% of them will need whatever it is that you offer. Like you can't just go ahead and offer a industry of, let's say it's let's say schools, for example. You can't help schools get more students because usually 80, 95% of all schools, 99% of all schools, they already have students that always come to them. Like they don't need it really, right? You can't offer to them, even though you had a really good offer, right? Last thing is, can they afford high ticket services, right? And I would say what I would consider high ticket is anything above like a grand. It's not very high ticket, but can they afford this in like a monthly spend above this? And then you're usually good, right? Because at the end of the day, whatever industry and whatever niche we choose, obviously we want to make money, right? We're here to make money, and if we can't make that, well, then it doesn't make sense, right? So 1,000 and above is usually a good place to start off to figure out that a niche is able to do this, right? Now, obviously, when it comes to choosing a niche, on top of this, you guys could have crazy advantages over a niche other than other people choosing it, right? Now, if you have experience in something, right, you know something about a specific niche that someone else doesn't know, all of these things can really put you in an advantage when it comes to choosing your niche, right? Now, you need to remember, again, just as I covered here, not every niche works. Make sure that whatever niche you've chosen has those three things. They're growing, they're able, and they need whatever you have to offer, and they're able to pay at least 1,000 or above in actually monthly expenses, right? That is the main thing. Now, once you have chosen your niche, literally, guys, stick with it, right? Stick with the niche. Please, like, engrave this in your guys' heads. Note this down just as I did here. Stick with it. Stick with it. I can't say it enough, right? You need to remember the worst niche that there is the one you just chose, and the best one is the one you've stayed with for the longest. Now, the reason I say that is because once you go into a niche, there's so many questions. Like, you don't know anything about the niche, you don't know anything about the industry, you don't know anything about the people in there, you don't know anything about how much they pay usually, you don't know about their softwares, their services, you don't know anything. Everything is just a big question mark, right? However, the best one is the one you've stayed in the longest because all of these question marks, well, they get crossed off. They get crossed off and they turn into checkboxes. You know their pains, you know what they've tried, you know exactly everything about them, you know how to speak their language, you know what they like the most, you know what would give them the best results. You know everything, right? And that just goes down into time, right? The longer you spend within a industry. Now I tried throwing a little time glass here as if there's like sand falling here. The longer you spend in an industry, in a niche, the better it is. The better results you're going to get and the better results you're going to get for yourself and for the clients as well, right? So stick with it for the longer. um, Obviously, if you've done research, you know maybe like 5% of the niche, but that's not enough. When you're starting in this niche, speaking with them, having sales calls, you'll know it better. So over time, it just gets better, right? And that's another reason you shouldn't switch between niches because if you do, you're just completely starting off from scratch, right? Let's say you choose first niche, and this is kind of your progress, right? You're kind of going up here, you're going up the steps, and then this is a time period of 6 months. Now you've went all the way from here to initially here. This is where you're at right now, right? In that industry. If you keep going, well, you're going to be able to go on this upward spiral, right? However, if you give up and you start on completely on a new niche, you'll start off here. Literally on the same road, on the same thing, you'll start off here. Instead of being here, you'll start off here. You're dropping everything. You're literally wasting that time. So it's not worth it, right? Don't just start over. Keep doing what you're doing, keep staying within your niche and your parameters of what you know, it's going to result in the best possible results for you. I just can't stress it enough, right, guys? Please just choose the best niche, right? Once you're sure about your niche, it's time to figure out what you're going to help them with. It's time to figure out about what you're going to offer, right? That is the second most important thing. Now, it doesn't have to be marketing, right? The reason everybody does marketing and the reason the word SMMA came up is because it's a social media marketing agency. Now, the reason it is a marketing term is because marketing is timeless, right? What business in what year doesn't need marketing? Marketing has been around for the longest of time. Marketing has always been around. It's a safe spot, it's a safe space. It is pretty much the timeless thing, right? That's why everybody goes into it, right? But in the same way, right now, for example, AI has gotten a lot popular, right? You can help people with AI solutions, AI software. There's a lot of people, there are a lot of companies that initially have softwares in the back end that would benefit a lot from AI, right? For example, if they're paying a staff of 5 people, they're paying them, let's say, a salary of $2,000 each. They're paying a total of 10K a month just for their staff, right? If you can find a AI solution, if you can build something that removes these 5 people and just needs to have one, well, all of a sudden you're saving them 8 grand a month. That you could charge them 4 grand a month for this, and they're still in profit. They're still keeping more money than they would if they had that 5 person team, right? And you just literally help them build out something with AI. Point being, obviously, I don't do anything with AI. I still do a social media marketing agency. Point is, don't limit yourself to marketing. Don't limit yourself to a specific thing that everybody else is doing. You can always do everything. There's always a lot of room to iterate, right? Now, once you figure it out, obviously, please just try to think outside the box, right? Um, Now, 90% of business owners, obviously, they either want to get more clients or make more money, right? But there are a lot of ways to get them from point A to point B, right? So point A is initially where they're at right now, and then point B is their desired state. That is where they want to be, right? That is where they want to make more money, save more time, whatever it is, right? You guys got to just help them get there. Now, is it only by marketing? No, doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be marketing. It doesn't have to be anything special. You can help roofers with recruiting. You can have help service-based businesses with hiring new staff, whatever it is, right? There's a lot of different ways to do it, right? Um, Now, another thing is that you can initially get them to just that initial B point, right? That is the goal, right? Just figure that out. Figure what they want, figure out what they desire, and figure out how you can help them bridge this gap. Now, once you figured that out, right? So you've got your niche. Now you figured out as well, obviously not as quickly as this, but this shouldn't take you more than just a few days, even just a few hours. You can start figuring out exactly what it is that you can offer them, right? So now you have the niche, you have the offer. The third step is arguably probably the most important step, right? And what it is actually creating a offer, right? And if you aren't able to make this good, nothing else is going to work. Now, you have to build an irresistible offer. Think of it like this. If you were in the position of whatever industry you're choosing to work with, and you were able to help me or you, for example, go from point A to point B, would I say no to this, right? Let's say you chose the industry of detailers, car detailers. Imagine yourself as a detailing company, imagining someone coming up to you with a specific offer, would you say no to that? Right? Would you say no to what they have to propose, right? That is what you want to figure out of, right? And why you want people to say a no is because I remember I learned this from Alex Hormozy, is that it's a lot easier to get people to say no into a yes rather than getting them to say yes. As humans, biologically, we're more obliged, we're more leaning towards always saying no. So if you can get someone to say a no, automatically that is turned into a yes. Quick caveat, that is why on cold calls, instead of just saying, are you open to like booking in a call with us or are you open to like just sitting down for some time? What I say is, are you opposed to taking more of a look at this? Are you opposed for a quick 2 minute chat? The reason is because it's a lot easier for people to say, no, I'm not opposed, rather than saying, yes, I would like to sit down with you, right? That's just one thing that I recommend you guys. Just remember to build something out. Remember to have something so that you guys can get people to say no instead of realistically just saying yes. Now, maybe you guys have seen it, but there is a specific framework that Alex Hormozy teaches, and it's pretty much all over internet. If you guys have read 100 Million Offers or whatever it is, you guys have probably seen it. So what it is the dream outcome, right? You want to have the dream outcome, then you want to have X, the perceived likelihood of achievement. So I'm just going to say likelihood of achievement. I'll just have it here. You guys make the sense out of it, right? You'll have this, and then you'll have the time delay, right? And then you'll have the effort and sacrifice. Now, this is a super simple little formula that you guys can use. Very, very simple, very, very straightforward. And this is value, right? So the amount of value you're going to provide, obviously, that is a topic for another day, but the more value you provide, the more money you're going to make, right? If you can, times the dream outcome of where they want to get, if that's more time, more freedom, more money, whatever it is, that is their dream outcome. If you can times that by their perceived likelihood of achievement, how many people have you helped them with this out with before? How many testimonials do you have? Whatever it is, divide that by time delay. The less time delay, the better. Times how much effort and sacrifice they want to do is the most value, right? For example, let's say you're a coach. Let me just give you guys an example here, not agency based, but just to keep it simple. Let's say you're a coach and you're helping people get a six pack, right? Now, their dream outcome is a six pack, right? That is their goal. Their perceived likelihood of achievement, if you have helped 500 people before, better yet, people with the same body structure, the same body form, the same area, probably the same country that these people are from, even, well, that's going to increase it as well, right? Because there's a lot of, let's say, South Asian people that have, I'm South Asian myself. So let's say there's a lot of South Asian people that have a lot of belly fat, right? And they want to get a six pack. Well, if they see somebody that is from a Eastern European place with a six pack, well, maybe that wouldn't make a lot of change for them. But if they can see someone else that is South Asian that is in their same position get a six pack, well, that just increases a lot more. So, six pack, you've done it with 500 plus people. Time delay, it's going to only take you a month. And then effort or sacrifice with only um, two workouts a week, right? So, if this was an offer, right, let's say you said, I will guarantee that you get a six pack because I've helped 500 plus people do it. You will get it within a month with only working out two times a week and never having to plan out your meals. Whoa. If you just listen to that, that is immense value. Obviously, Point is, it's just an example. It's not an actual thing. But the point is, you see how much value that is. Why? Because the dream outcome is there. Okay, their perceived likelihood of achievement is good because it's a six pack and they're going to get it because they've seen people not only like them, but people achieve it before, 500 plus of them. Time delay is only a month. Wait, really? So I can get that in a month? Effort and sacrifice, they only have to work out twice per week. They don't have to plan any meals. They don't have to eat anything specifically. Work out twice a week. Another thing you could say is while still eating and enjoying your favorite meals, right? Another offer. Really crazy, right? So point is, obviously, I'm not going to build out an offer for you guys right here, depending on your niche and structure and what you do, but follow this one. It's going to make it a lot easier to create an offer and to actually, and I hope this analogy and this example makes sense for you, sense for you guys as well, because it's just one of the things that I would recommend you guys to do is that is an easy way to kind of build out an offer and base it off of that. Now, once that is ready, now what we've done until here is that we've figured out the niche, right? So I hope you've spent some time, you figured out the niche, you have figured out the service, right? You figured out what you want to do for them, you figured out the group of people you want to help, you figured out what you want to do to help them initially when you're going to make money, and you've built a offer, right? You can't go without any of these. If you don't have a niche, well, you don't have a service, right? If you don't have a service, you don't have anything to offer. If you don't have an offer, you don't pretty much have anything to make money off of, right? And people aren't going to say no. So have a good niche, make sure that everything is within those checkpoints we talked about. Have a good service, make sure that these people need it and they're able to afford it. Obviously, that goes back to the niche. Third thing, make sure that you have a killer offer. Follow the Alex Hormozy framework, and you guys will be more than good to go. Now, let's start off with outreach, right? This is the second step of actually doing all of this. So you figure out the easy stuff. This should only take you a few days maximum. It shouldn't take you a week. Figure out your outreach, right? And let's be completely honest. Let's be completely honest. Um, you need to figure out all the way first where your niche is easiest accessible, right? Because outreach, it's wide, right? You can do it through Instagram, YouTube, cold calling, whatever it is, right? It's very wide. So figure out where your niche is easiest accessible, right? I'm talking easiest, right? And if you think about it, based on your specific niche, this is going to be different. That is why I never recommend and never tell people to, oh, only do cold calls or only do cold emails, right? Or only do cold DMs. And the reason I don't say that is because what your industry is and what your agency is, it's going to be based on kind of who you want to talk with. For example, let me give an example. If you chose dentist, well, there's going to be absolutely no way that you're going to speak with enough decision makers over the phone, right? You literally can't cold call these people. The reason is because all of them have a gatekeeper. There's always going to be someone in between them. You can never get through this person, right? Because this person is literally on the phones making sure that these dentists don't get contacted. So you going through to the decision maker, forget it. Not possible. It's just impossible. You're going to waste your time, right? Best thing for dentists is probably going to be somewhat like emails or DMs or like DMs on social media, right? To their personal accounts. That's the best thing I can say. For example, with agents, real estate agents, best thing you can do is cold calls, right? Not only because it is one of the best things to do, but because it is the easiest way to actually reach these agents, right? Through cold calls. They get cold called all of the time because their numbers are easy accessible. They're always on their phones because their own clients, their own leads call them on their phone. It is just the best place to get in contact with them, right? Don't do anything else other than cold calls when it comes to that. Now, once you figured out what is the easiest way, again, looping back to it, keep it easy, keep it simple, easiest accessible way, you have now figured out the methods that you can choose out. So you want to choose out two methods, right? So let's say you chose a niche of dentist, right? Let's say you chose dentist and you found out that, okay, the best way that I can reach these people is through emails. And the second best way is I can reach them out through DMs, right? And we're talking specifically LinkedIn, for example, right? Well, then now you have two methods to get in contact with these people. Lock in with us. This is all you need to do. So now that you have your industry, you have your niche, you figured out where the two best places are to catch these people and to capture them. Lock in with two methods to likely get in contact with them and build out a process in order to get in contact with them and state your offer, right? Once everything is ready, you're ready to start with your outreach. And let's be completely honest, right? Let's put into consideration that you are a total beginner. You have zero experience in any industry, any niche, anything specifically, right? Um, there is something that we have that is called KPIs. Now, KPIs, it's written out like this, is key performance indicators, right? These are things and these are metrics that you have to follow to be able to know if you're on the right track towards something. For example, you have KPI for sales, You have KPI for outreach, you have KPI for show ups, you have KPI for everything, right? So let's say you're doing outreach and you're booking meetings and people aren't showing up. Well, you can base it off of your KPIs. And if it's well under KPI, well, then you know what you need to fix, right? So it's just one of those like tracking metrics that you need to use. And since we're considering that you're a complete beginner, let's say that your KPI is just really, really bad, right? Just really, really bad, right? So let's say your ABR is 1%, right? 1% ABR, right? Well, it should be at least 2% and above, but let's just say it's 1%, right? ABR is appointment booking rate, the amount of people you need to reach out to turns out to how many appointments you book in. So let's say you reach out to 100 people, 1% ABR is one person booked in those 100. Let's say you have a 40% show up rate, right? Let's say that is the show up rate, which it should be like ideally 70% plus. Let's just say you have a 40% show up rate. Let's say you have a 10% sales conversion rate, which is again very bad. Should be realistically 25, 30% up. But again, we're keeping it very simple here. We're keeping it based on beginner KPIs. So these are your KPIs, right? So these key performing indicators. If you're under 1% as a beginner, you need to change something. Something is going wrong. If you're under 40% as a beginner, something is going wrong. If you're under 10% as on a sales conversion rate, something is going wrong. Now, one thing that I want you to keep in mind, and I want you guys to remember, is that volume negates luck at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, you guys are probably seeing it, but there's literal people with, and I'm not trying to discriminate here, but with very, very thick Indian accents, right? They talk in a very, very thick accent, and they're able to make a lot more money than a lot of people that are speaking with a British American accent are, right? And this just that's just how the world works, and it's unfortunate, but they are making a lot more money. Why? Because literally these people all they do is call. They might call 1,000 people a day. Really, but and then obviously based on just numbers and pure luck and sheer volume, they make a lot more money than everybody else does because everybody else they get the same results in 200 calls, right? And then they're just done. But these guys, they literally, even though they have a bad accent, they 5x their output. They need to feed their family. They need to feed people around them. So they literally 5x what they're doing and they're making a lot more money, right? So make sure that you guys remember. Another thing that I want you guys to note down is volume negates luck. All times. Volume negates luck, right? That's just one thing I need you guys to keep in mind of, right? So now let's consider this based on your guys as KPIs, right? So if you are doing, let's say you're doing 400 outreach a day, which is not a lot, but again, we're pushing for volume here. 400 outreaches a day based on the metrics that we've done, you should be able to book 4 appointments per day. So 4 appointments, 4 booked. You should be able to have 28 of them in a week because that's just kind of how it works based on the amount of days you work in a week. Let's say 28 in a week. Let's say 11 of them show up. So go here. 11 show. Again, we're doing this based off of the numbers that we've done and we've considered. Realistically, based on 11 that show up and your 10% sales conversion rate, you should have one client per week, right? Now, let's say you are getting one client per week, and as a beginner, let's say you're charging a grand for your services because honestly, you don't know how to do shit. You're just kind of going out there, but this is what you're charging. That is already 4,000 in MRR, right? So already you're making 4,000 per month just in your first month, right? Now, again, you're a beginner, and to be totally honest, you're probably not going to have any clients the first month, right? And I don't, I know that you don't want to hear that. I know that's not something you were looking forward to. You were looking forward to making 45K a month in your first month. But we need to be realistic here, right? Because if you're realistic, well, then it's going to just help you and pay you a lot of more. It's going to pay you dividends, right? Back later. It's not going to help you out if you try to be too optimistic and all of a sudden you don't get the results that you wanted to get, right? So let's say first month you spend the time researching, you spend the time initially figuring out messages, scripts that enable you to book these calls. And you also find a sales process that is actually signing you those clients, right? So month one, it's a lot of the information side of things. It's a lot of the learning. It's this whole learning curve of scripts and frameworks and everything you need to know. You're just making sure that everything is working. You're still doing outreach. You're still doing sales calls, but right now you're just refining a process of something that you think is actually going to work, right? That is month one. Realistically, that's going to happen. Month two is when you start signing a little bit more on the client side, right? But now there's another problem, right? And the problem now is the fact that you don't know how to deliver to these people, right? It's a question mark. Again, you don't know what to deliver. You don't know how to build out ads. You don't know how to build out within Facebook. You don't know how to create creatives. You don't know any of that, right? Now, what you need to do is start going ahead and doing all of this, and this is fine because the first few clients you do, just be willing to just refund them, be willing to just kind of get out there and just get the experience because honestly, the experience is much more worth it than the actual signage of clients because you're going to probably lose them anyways, right? It's your first 5 to 10 clients, you're just going to fail anyways, right? So realistically, sometimes what I also remember regretting that I didn't do is I didn't do any free trials. I would recommend doing some free trials or at least doing some type of a free trial, where you can charge like $200 up front and then you can just literally do what you got to do for them. And if it fails, it fails, but you're at least learning, right? Obviously you have to have the understanding that I want to learn. I want to learn first and then I want to offer this for a fee, right? Now, third step is that now you actually have a process to get appointments consistently, right? You're getting appointments, right? You're getting the appointments. You're also able to sell them, and you're also able to deliver a good service to them, right? Now, month three, which is the third month we're in right now, you actually have a process, right, in place. Everything is good. Your KPIs are probably much higher as you have more experience, but I want to still consider the basic beginner KPIs, right? I don't want to go ahead and start comparing it to like very difficult KPIs. We're going to keep it based on the basic KPIs. So let's say you're making the same amount of money, you're still doing the same amount of outreach and the same amount of the process, right? So let's look back to it. Month four now, since month one was just again learning everything like that. Month two was the service delivery side of things. Month three, you finally had something in process. Let's say month four is when you actually start putting everything in place because now you know how to deliver, you know everything, you've done the experience, all that good stuff. Well, then this month, you finally made your first 4K MRR, right? Same thing that you were supposed to make in the first month, but now you actually made it. Now, month five, all of a sudden, you make another 4K, which is the same as this, but then again, you make it again. So you make 4,000 with the new 4,000 that you just signed on, the new four clients that you signed on, and then these people are also paying you again for the second month, and then that happens for the sixth month again, including the people that just paid you. Now, all of a sudden, in the sixth month, you're making, let me just write this out for you guys, if this makes sense. You're making 4,000 first, and then you're making the 4,000 again, and another 4,000, and then you're making 4,000 twice, and then you're making 4,000 on top of that. In month six, you should realistically be at a whopping 12 grand per month, right? That should be where you should be at, just based on numbers, just based on initial qualification, initial like steps and frameworks, everything that you need to do, right? Now let's be very, very considerate. Let's say you spend a few money on like softwares and stuff like that. Most you're gonna do is probably around like 1.5K. Your profit is gonna be realistically around 10K a month, right? 10K per month is your profit after all the expenditure. You spend like maybe 2 grand or something like that. That is your profit, right? Now, obviously, this is all considering if you're completely new. This is all considering if you are, if you haven't done anything like this before, if you're just completely new, you don't know anything about the niche, anything about the industry, nothing like that. Remember, if you have any type of sales experience, if you have any type of appointment booking experience or experience in the field of your niche, let's say you're working in the gym niche and you're a personal trainer yourself, or you've owned your own gym, let's say you're working with agents and you was a real estate agent before, whatever it is, all of this is going to help you, right? Etc. This will help you and get you much faster, right? But for those that are completely new and just comparing that to everything, that is literally what you need to have in place. If I'm going to let you guys off with one last thing in this video, and one of the most important things that I want you guys to write down as well is volume, right? That is number one. Second thing is consistency, right? So we want you guys to write out both of these. And the last part is iteration, right? So do loads of volume, stay consistent, and do infinite amount of iteration. That is what I'm going to leave you with, guys. Remember this: do a lot of volume, stay consistent, do a lot of iteration in terms of scripts, do a lot of testing, do a lot of ups and downs and all this stuff. It is boring, yes, I get it, but this is literally what's going to get you guys to that end all goal of getting to your first 5 to 10K per month, and even getting to that, even getting closer, right? And after this, obviously, it's a completely different ball game. You start running ads, you start doing a lot more different stuff to be able to get this. But that is all you guys need. It is a super simple step-by-step framework to do this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, and if you're all the way on the end of this video, remember to like and also subscribe if you guys enjoyed the video. And yeah, leave a thumbs up as well if you guys enjoyed. Let me know if there's any specific videos you're going to watch in the future. If there's anything specific you guys want me to cover, let me know and I will cover that with you guys. This is obviously the end of this video, and I will see you guys in a few days. Peace out.